Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world. Today, we're diving into Jake Halpern's incredible book, Bad Paper, which is a wild investigation into the world of buying and selling old debt. This explainer is all about deconstructing the hidden system he uncovers. Think of it as a structural roadmap, a companion to our full deep dive. Okay, let's get right into it. We're going to map out the system itself, then look at what makes it tick, the incentives. From there, we'll see the real-world outcomes, figure out why this thing is so persistent, and finally, connect it all back to the bigger picture. All right, first things first. To really get our heads around this, we have to pin down exactly what we're talking about. So what is this bad paper market? Basically, it's this huge marketplace where unpaid debts, old credit card bills, gym fees, you name it, are bundled up and sold, often for just pennies on the dollar. It's really an industrial-scale machine for turning old account data into cold, hard cash. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. It's not just about money changing hands. The whole thing operates like a supply chain for pressure. The debt itself is just the raw material, right? The real product, the thing that creates value at every single step, is escalating pressure on the debtor. And you can see that journey right here. It starts off simple enough. A bank extends credit. But once that bill goes unpaid, it gets charged off, sold, and then maybe sold again and again, until it lands on some collector's desk, its story getting a whole lot murkier with every transaction. So what keeps this supply chain moving? Well, let's follow the money. We've got to examine the incentives. Why is everyone, from the big banks to the guy on the phone, playing this game? Well, for starters, the sheer size of the pie is just mind-boggling. When the research for this book was done, we're talking about $831 times billion in unpaid consumer debt in the U.S. alone. That's not just a market. It's an entire industry built on the back of financial hardship. And if you look closer, every single player has a clear, rational reason for being there. The original creditors, like banks, they just want to get these bad loans off their books. The debt buyers, they're playing a numbers game, buying up uncertain debt for cheap, hoping to squeeze a profit out of it. And then at the very end of the line, you have the collectors. Their goal is simple: maximize what they can get using high-volume tactics to turn phone calls into payments. So what you end up with is a system that actually rewards people who can exploit the chaos and the lack of transparency. It's a place where, as one investor in the book puts it, you can make a killing because it's so messy. The opacity isn't a flaw in the system, it's the engine that makes it so profitable. Okay, so we see the incentives driving the machine, but what does this all mean for the people on the receiving end of all that pressure? What are the actual outcomes for them? Well, the results are pretty much exactly what you'd expect from a system like this. First, personal debt gets turned into a raw commodity. Then you get a culture of scripted coercion designed to use fear and confusion to get a payment. And here's the huge problem. Every time the debt is sold, the data gets worse. It's like a game of telephone, leaving people hounded for debts they might not even owe, with almost no way to fight back. And this quote from a collector in the book, man, it just lays it all bare. It shows you the raw tactics. It's a world where getting someone to pay is way more important than making sure the debt is even legitimate. The truth becomes secondary to the collection. So the whole thing sounds pretty broken, right? Why is it still around? Why does it persist? The answer isn't about fairness. It's about its structural advantages. Yeah, here's the bottom line. The system keeps going because it's profitable, not because it's fair or accurate. It's all about scale. It's cheap to process massive amounts of data and make thousands of calls. And as long as just enough people pay up under all that pressure, the machine will just keep humming along. And this number right here, this is the linchpin for the whole legal side of the industry. A staggering 90% of people who get sued over a debt, they just don't show up to court. They're no-shows. So ask yourself, what happens when nobody shows up to challenge the information? Exactly. There's zero incentive for the debt buyers to actually get the real original paperwork. Why would they? The system can pretty much run on autopilot, winning by default, without ever having to present a shred of real evidence. And this brings us to the core crisis in perception. We tend to see a collection call as this isolated, personal thing, a dispute between two people. But the systemic reality is so much bigger. We're actually seeing the very last step in a long industrial pipeline designed to monetize vulnerability using traded data and completely misaligned incentives. So for our final step, let's zoom all the way out. how does this machine fit into the wider economy? Because it definitely doesn't operate in a bubble. You know, this industry isn't some weird, isolated corner of the economy. It's a direct consequence of how our whole world is set up now. It's fueled by our dependence on consumer credit, the way everything in life is becoming a financial product, our massive data brokerage infrastructure, and even the way our civil courts are designed for high-volume throughput. Which leaves us with a really tough question to chew on. If this system isn't really a bug, but a logical feature of our economy, then what would it actually take to change it? Understanding its structure, the way we've laid it out here, that's got to be the first step. It helps us see the problem for what it is, and maybe, just maybe, find the real points of leverage. Crisis in Perception examines how systems shape belief and how better tools help us see clearly. This project is free and publicly accessible. If you'd like to support the time, tools, and research behind Crisis in Perception, you can become a supporter on Patreon. For a longer audio-based analysis of this topic, see the deep dive linked in the description. If you enjoy this kind of systems-level analysis, please like, subscribe, and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next.